what we are particularly happy about was the attendance of not only our domestic banks showing interest in financing investment, but also the private sector arms of the multilateral development banks. Like in the case of World Bank, they have their private sector arm in the IFC, or the International Finance Corporation, and then in terms of the IDB, they have their and you can see that they had their team, and the vice president of the bank was there, in fact. But besides him, they had their private sector arm, which is IDB Invest. IDB Invest has been gaining more interest and more activity in Belize, and I think they want to build on that. Besides them, we also had Coye, which is the Central American Bank for Economic Integration. They had expressed interest in providing a private sector window as well. So I think it was useful and helpful to have them in person at the summit. When we look at the banking sector, there are only a few banks. We only have 4 banks in Belize, and then you have your credit unions. Mm. And looking at the banks, I think it's published in the quarterlies by the central bank. You in effect see the performance of each of the banks. When you look individually at each of the banks, it tells a different story. You basically see that a couple of the banks are quite active in their lending and have a high loan to deposit ratio, whereas you have maybe one bank or 2 banks that hold most of the excess liquidity. So it seems to be, just from that high level view, a difference in lending policy by certain banks, and perhaps that it may be useful to have the central bank have further discussion, moral suasion, if you will. But if it's an individual lending policy that is affecting the liquidity or the use of the liquid assets, then it's the individual bank that needs to revisit that lending policy or have a more optimistic approach to what is occurring in Belize. Clearly, the economy is has picked up significantly. I think the second quarter reflected that with the over 22% growth, and I think the third quarter will be substantial as well. So the private sector, in effect, is reflecting a growing confidence in the economy and a willingness to invest. So I would think that the banking sector would see something similar and support that.